Alright, so Black Panther, here we go. We got I'm gonna make this my spoiler review, so this is your fair warning beforehand. There will be spoilers. I'm gonna go through the movie kind of in order, and then I'm gonna do like an overview. But as I'm going through the storyline, I'm gonna be probably giving away key things from the movie that you might not want to know if you haven't seen the film. So see the film first and then come back and watch this, and we'll have a discussion in the comments below. Alright, so if you watch my spoiler-free review, you know I really enjoyed this movie, and actually the more time I've had to reflect on it, kind of the more I've realized that I actually liked the film. Like, I gave it an 8.5, and I'd probably honestly give it a 9, like thinking back now at some of the aspects of it that I just wasn't thinking about when I did the review. I gave it an 8.5 basically because of the lack of complexity, and that's not to be confused with the lack of depth. See, this movie was very deep. There's a lot of depth there, and there's a lot of messaging there. There's complexity in the messaging, but there's not complexity in the storyline, if you understand what I'm saying. So that's why I kind of rated it lower, but the more that I thought about how much positive messaging was in this movie, and how much kind of like these like dueling aspects of reality that they put into this movie, the more I appreciate it. So, alright, let's go through this thing. So, the very beginning, like I said in the other review, and I don't know if you watched that or not, but the movie opened up so quickly that I didn't even realize the movie had started. So I was watching the previews, and then literally you're seeing an African landscape, and it's like dark, and you're in the movie. You don't realize it. There's no credits, there's no scroll, there's nothing at the bottom of the screen that says Wakanda. You're just seeing this like open plain at night, right? And it begins basically with a story, and it's the story of the beginning of mankind, the beginning of the origins of this story, and the origins basically of the earth, right? Okay, so it shows this meteorite flying through space. It's glowing purple, and this meteorite crashes into Earth, and this is supposedly before mankind is on Earth yet. So it basically enchants this small area in Africa that ends up being Wakanda, and gives it this magical element, right? Because there's now this vibranium that came from this asteroid, comet, whatever you want to call it, that crashed into the Earth, and this area is now special. So life developed in Africa. So obviously this is some of the earliest civilization ever. Has grown with this has grown into Wakanda, has grown with this vibranium in their life, and it has basically enhanced them among every other tribe around. Did not advance as quickly as them. It gave them advancements in technology, advancements in actual power, right, and strength, and gave them this Black Panther power, right, through this vibranium, through these flowers that grew from the vibranium. They liquefy it, they take it in, it actually makes them stronger, invincible, they have healing factor, more agile. So it's an incredible thing, right? So you get that early on, boom, it's the backstory of the vibranium and how it got there and why Wakanda is what it is. After that, we go into a scene, it goes straight to Oakland, California in the early 90s. And you're introduced to these characters, and they kind of seem just like inner city youth. They're kind of dressed, I don't know, I guess you're supposed to allude that they're like gangbangers. They have guns, and it looks like they're looking to do some sort of arms deal or something, and then all of a sudden you realize someone is coming, so they hide everything. This man walks in, and it is TChalla, right? TChalla, who died in the last Captain America Civil War, right? After that explosion at the UN. And the whole reason why TChalla is becoming the Black Panther and taking up the mantle as king. So this is a flashback to 1992, and T'Challa has gone here to track someone down. And you don't know who yet, but it turns out that Wakanda has basically these operatives all over the world in place in different countries, and they're just posing as locals, right? So who you thought were these gangbangers were actually Wakandans, and one of them had been secretly running arms to basically support these disenfranchised African Americans, right? And give them a chance to rise up out of this poverty and kind of disenfranchisement that they've had to live with. You know, that the Wakandians never had to deal with this type of like oppression, right? They live in their own little world, and they have all this technology, and you know, they don't share it with anyone, and they're like a secret country, right? And there's all these other Africans scattered around the world who are having a hell of a hard time. And so this guy has sympathy for that, and he wants to help them rebel, right? He's bringing guns into the African American community, basically, in hopes that they will be able to rise up over oppressive situations. And this is not at all what the Wakandans want. They don't even want people to know about their technology, so TChalla is there to stop him, right? And a fight ensues, and TChalla kills the man, and then we go into the future. The man turns out to be T'Challa's brother. So he killed his own brother, basically to protect Wakanda from being known to the world, and going against Wakandan beliefs. So we fast forward to present day, where we had left off in the last appearance of Black Panther in Civil War, and he's about to take up the mantle as king, and he basically, anyone from any of the tribes within Wakanda have the right to challenge him. A guy does challenge him. His name is M'Baku, and he is the leader of a tribe that lives up in the mountains, and basically the Wakandans have kind of written off and not really cared that much about them for a long period of time. And he challenges him. It's a pretty cool fight to watch, and T'Challa wins, and you know, he's going to be crowned the king. So he's crowned the king, and everything's moving along great, and they decide that they're going to, they finally have a chance, right, to track down the villain Claw. And he has been plaguing the Wakandans for a long time and stealing vibranium from them. So they track him down, they finally have a chance to put him down, and they fail to do so because of this new character that comes into the picture. And it turns out that this character, played by Michael B. Jordan, his character's name is Erik Killmonger. He's this CIA-trained, badass, ex-Navy SEAL operative, just total fucking badass, right? And he is one of the disenfranchised youth of the United States, right? He has kind of this anger and bitterness because he knows about Wakanda, and you end up finding out why. It's because he is the son of the man that was killed in the beginning of the movie, and basically he has this anger towards Wakanda, and he thinks that they should be sharing their power with the world, or basically not with the world. He wants them to share it with the African American community, with disenfranchised people, to basically overthrow governments and things like that. And so essentially he's a form of terrorist, and he wants to give weapons and technology to the people that don't have it, so that they can rise up and basically then become the people in power. And this so because he is the nephew of the ex-king, he also has a right to challenge for the mantle of king. So he comes to Wakanda to challenge T'Challa for the right to be Black Panther, to be the king of Wakanda, and essentially, first go around, he whoops his ass. Like, you think that T'Challa is dead. He's thrown over a waterfall. You don't see him for 15 minutes or so in the movie, and obviously we didn't think he was dead, but that's the idea that they're trying to portray here, is like, oh, the king is dead now, right? And these people are forced to now serve this Americanized kind of terrorist almost monster of a man. He's a ruthless human being. No regard for anyone, no mercy whatsoever. And honestly, he was one of my favorite characters in the movie just because of that, like, that ruthlessness and that, you know, yang to the yin of Black Panther. And yeah, I love the character. I thought it was really good, and it was a really cool contrast, right? You have this guy who grew up in America and felt like he was left behind, and you know, he could have grown up with this royalness, this greatness, and instead he was growing up as a kid on the streets in Oakland, California, and had to go through a lot of hardships that the people kind of did not. And he thought it was unwarranted, and he felt, you know, victimized. And through that, he developed a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and became a killing machine. So on top of him being a killing machine, he's also a very, very angry man. So yeah, basically he takes over. He's the king now, and he wants to go out and start revolutions and basically have the people who were disenfranchised before now rule over the people who were essentially in power before. It's basically flip-flop, and like now we're going to rule them type of deal. Long story short, T'Challa is not dead. He rises back up, and since the fight was not over, there was no death and there was no submission, they have to continue the fight, and that's what ends up happening. T'Challa ends up killing his cousin, who is Erik Killmonger, in the very last scene of the movie, and it's I don't know, someone talked about whether or not it would be a very good movie because of the villain might not be villainous enough, right? Because it's basically just a Wakandan civil war over ideas, basically. How are we going to govern? Do we share this stuff with the world, or do we not? And how do we go about doing that? And I believe because Erik Killmonger was such a badass, such a ruthless character, it worked really well, and it actually felt like a villain, not just like, you know, I don't want to be doing this, you know, not like a Captain America Civil War where it's like I'm fighting my friend. It actually felt like this guy was too far gone to change his way of thinking, right? And it was a really good movie, and the yin yang between T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, and Michael B. Jordan, Erik Killmonger, was fantastic. So that's kind of the rundown of the movie. But I would like to talk about kind of a lot of the messaging that I saw, and the reason that I ended up kind of changing my thinking and raising this from an 8.5 to a 9. Okay, so a lot of the messaging here was, there was just a ton of stuff here. Okay, there was a ton of stuff, right? There was kind of, it made statements about the disenfranchisement of African Americans as compared to Africans, and especially since this society of Africans, this fictional society in this movie, was this technologically advanced, kind of well-off group of people, basically some of the most powerful people in the world, while these people who had become slaves in America were doing so poorly. And it just, it felt like you felt it in the movie, you know what I mean? It's like, you felt Erik Killmonger's anger, and you felt T'Challa's need to lead his people, and him being like afraid and not knowing how to do that, and him kind of wanting to share things with the world, but knowing that he had to protect Wakanda, right? Because if they feel like if they let people know about them, that they would be basically strip-mined, someone come in and take over and basically do away with their way of life. And so it was this tough back and forth, like, what do we do? What do we do? Can we share this with the world or not? And so it was this struggle, right, between, do we take care of ourselves and our people, or do we help out everyone? And what's the moral thing to do, and how would we go about that if we did do it? right? There was strong messaging about stronger people and how they should lift up the weaker people. So people with fortune should lift up the people who have misfortune, right? And help them out. Teach them their ways. Give them access, right? And the end message, I feel like, in this movie was about kind of not forgetting the past, like paying homage to it, knowing that it happened, but moving forward together. And I think that's what, because in the end, TChalla defeats Erik Killmonger, but he still decides to share this technology and this way of life with the world. He just does it in the right way, not in a conspiratorial way where he's going to try to exude power over other people with this technology, but in fact do the opposite and empower people throughout the world. And I just felt like it was a really good kind of inner struggle type movie. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? What is the moral thing to do? And if we do it, what's the right way to go about it? Like, it speaks to society. Like, we have these arguments every single day, right? And everyone has, their idea of how things should be, and they're very strong and opinionated on that. And it's very hard to come together and decide what is the best way to go about getting what we all want, right? And I felt like in the end, it was about letting go of fear and being able to move on forward. Like, move forward, not forget the past, but move past it, right? To improve as humankind, right? And I think it sets up the next movie, Infinity War, in a great, great way, because we're going to have to be unified, right, to take on this immense power, right, that's coming for the world. So, yeah, just, I thought it was really good at expressing all of that. And, what else here? I wanted to note some of the strong females in this movie, which were, like, probably some of the baddest ass warriors in this movie were the females. You had, one of my favorite characters was Leticia Wright's character, Shuri, who is the Black Panther's sister, and she had most of the comedic lines in the movie. Very funny, very cute girl. She's like, and she's entertaining, right? And she's also commands, respect, like, and she is kind of on the same level with Black Panther being his sister. She's not intimidated by him. She pokes fun at him, and I really liked her character in the movie, and I think the humor she brought to it was, it went over well. It landed well. And then you have Nakia, who is his Black Panther's love interest throughout the movie. She was also a strong character. She was like a Wakandan secret agent, basically, and so that shows that she's like got a big part in society. And then who else? So my favorite, I have to say probably my favorite character in the movie, right? Besides, I did like Erik Killmonger's character because it was so contrast. It made a perfect villain, I feel like. But female character, Okoye, who was played by Danai Gurira from The Walking Dead, who plays God, why am I losing this right now? Plays Michonne on Walking Dead. Dude, her character in this movie was fantastic. She was such a badass, and like her attachment to her spear and how badass she was with that spear. Like, I think she kicked more ass than the Black Panther in this movie. She was definitely a total badass character, and I feel like she's going to be in Infinity War. Like, they've showed that in the previews, and I'm really glad because she's a damn strong character. Like, at first it's kind of like, why is this character gonna be in this big movie, right? As she's like a side character in Black Panther, but she's definitely more than a side character. She's one of the main characters in Black Panther, so I totally understand why she's gonna be in Infinity War. I gotta wrap this thing up. I'm running out of time on this phone, but I just want to say I absolutely love the movie. I'd love to discuss it more, If you guys had any more insights that I missed here, I'm going to see it again here in the next couple days, so I'll probably gain even more insight. But please leave comments below. Let's talk about it. Like I said, I think I have to raise my rating of this movie from an 8.5 to a 9, just because I've had time to think about it and really kind of like grow my perspective on it. But yeah, tell me what you thought of the movie, and let's discuss it below. Please subscribe for more videos like this where I just talk about movies, shows, and just whatever's on my mind. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.